This is probably the most beautiful airliner that has ever been built, and in its time was one of the most technically advanced.
And it's got that wonderful sound of round.
For 3,400 horsepower engines, the Wright turbo compounds. Now, the Americans have a simple designation for their engines. These are called R3350s. R for radial, where the cylinders, instead of being in line, are arranged radially around the crankcase. And 3350 is the number of cubic inches. 3,350. That's not all of them, that's each one. So if you do the math, try and figure out how many Subaru Forester engines are in that.
Way more than I care to calculate.
It was actually designed to meet a 1939 request by Transcontinental and Western Airlines, later called TWA. And it was done at the instigation of their major shareholder, who at the time was Howard Hughes. Now, at that time, an airline didn't just wait for a company to build it. They actually called the tune and said, I want an aircraft that is going to do this, this, and this, and cost me this much. And to keep costs down, this is one of the reasons it's got the triple tail, because the hangars at the time couldn't take a single vertical fin that would give the same effect. So hence the triple tail.
So if you watch the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, The Aviator, you're going to see a little bit of the Constellation in that. They do touch on that whole story.
If you have a look at this, that beautiful dolphin-shaped fuselage actually provides lift. Listen to this wonderful machine. Flown today by Bob Delahunty. The design of the wing, if you look at it in plan view, is actually an upscaled plan view of the P-38 Lightning fighter that was being produced by Lockheed.
It is absolutely beautiful to watch in flight, and when they brought this aircraft to Australia, it made the entire flight of multiple hops, about 39 and a half hours, going from Auckland to Honolulu, Pago Pago, Nandi, here, with no technical issues, which for these aircraft was quite miraculous, I believe.
Well, in its day, it was called the best three-engined aircraft that Qantas ever operated. And every stop where they used to offload or upload passengers across the Pacific and on their way to the UK, they would have a big stock of these engines. Because these engines were the same ones that were used in the B-29 during the Second World War. And in the Second World War, these aircraft were utilised as transports, called the C-69, C for cargo.
Yep, and those were very finicky engines. Had to really look after them. So hats off to Haas for keeping this aircraft flying. And I would imagine it's got some very similar stories about the engines to the guys keeping the B-29s flying in the US.
Now, this aircraft was actually built as a C-121, again for the US Air Force. Look at that magnificent aircraft. It was delivered in 1955 to the Military Air Transport Service, and incredibly, the aircraft behind it on the production line is actually flying in Europe at the present time.
Yep, that one, it's amazing. It's sister with Breitling and so on. But the reason this aircraft's still here and didn't wind up going to the wreckers is because at one point they left a cockpit window open and it got filled with birds and the resulting remnants of birds.
And the scrappies didn't want it because it would contaminate the aluminium.
Correct.
But the work that's been done on this machine is incredible to keep it flying for all of this time. The sponsorship that was raised by HARS, the Historical Aircraft Restoration Society, based down here at this beautiful Shell Harbour Airport. If you have a look at the aircraft that are on that taxiway down there now, they are all HARS aircraft, as well as this P3 Orion that's sitting out the front. And they're all operated by HARS. HARS tend to basically look after the very, very heavy end of aircraft flying here in Australia. Again, ladies and gentlemen, look at that beautiful shape. Well, I've just been informed that the one that sat behind it on the production line is not now flying.
Yeah, very sad. Apparently the Breitling group decided it was just too hard to keep it going with maintenance, so it was unfortunately retired, but there may be others restored, including the Lufthansa Museum apparently is working on one, and they're also working on the original Air Force One, President Eisenhower's VC-121A, that was known as Columbine 2. There's a rumour that that's going to be flying again at some point.
Were they also working on the Bataan? There was another one that they were working on, but there are very few of these aircraft that are flying anywhere around the world at the present time. They only built about 850 plus of these, but in their day this was luxury flying.
Oh yeah, first class was down the back, away from the engines. But this is a beautiful sight and sound of a bygone era.
I can imagine flying in this would have been like flying from Sydney to London in one of the early flying boats.
Except above the weather. And
with all your
pressurised.
Proper, real crockery and cutlery and...
Yeah.
Everybody smoking, no doubt.
Totally.
Now, these aircraft were also used by the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. It's incredible to think that they were still in service then, but there are a lot of photographs of these aircraft flying out of bases like Tan Son Nhut. And incongruous sitting there in their Southeast Asia camouflage.
I could imagine.
If you're keen to reach maximum altitude, check out our bar partners this year at Wings. Trolleyed are activating the Aviator Bar with their Shorts 330 cockpit and fuselage. They'll be providing first-class service with their aviation bar trolleys, pilots and cabin crew. So make sure you check them out for an in-flight drink after takeoff.
And I can assure you there's great service and some good drinks. I've met up with these folks, and the bar carts are a lot of fun. And also, yes, it is a Shorts 330, 2 parts thereof. I thought at first there was only the Shorts 360, but that's the big brother. So they've got the 330 in 2 parts down at the bar, just not too far from the tower here, tempting us with alcohol. But we'll be good.
Definitely an aircraft that was built to a specification, that one.
Yeah.
Very, very boxy, but very, very capable.
Yeah, the flying boxcar.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we've got this beautiful sunshine down here at Shell Harbour Airport, but please remember to keep hydrated. Wear a hat. If you don't have one, there's lots of merchandising around who will sell you one, and certainly keep up that 30 to 50 plus. There is a lot of UV out there. Just look at that incredible curved approach from the Super Connie.
Looks good against the escarpment, doesn't it?
Just looks like it's hanging there at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like the bigger they are, the more hanging there they look on final.
when you're driving north heading towards Wollongong or to Sydney, you imagine being at the roundabout just coming in and you didn't know that this was on today, and this aircraft suddenly appears ahead of you.
It's an eclipse.
Beautiful.
You know, I think he's landed here a few times.
There were months and months and months expended by crews heading from Australia over to America just to clean the aircraft out before they turned a spanner on it.
And getting a lot of support from Qantas to get discounted flights over there. But
Beautiful product from Lockheed.
And if you notice, if you get the chance, check out some of the features in a Lockheed aircraft, the Neptune, the Hudson, the Connie, and down to the 12 and the 10. The real wheelbays are very similar. You can see a lot of similar piping, structures, everything.
And squealing brakes on all of them.
Oh yeah. I noticed Connie's been pretty quiet on the brakes today.
It's only going slowly at the moment.
But Ando, as you said about merchandise from the tower here, I can see Navy, Air Force, there's a general aviation merchandise. You got, of course, the Paul Bennett Airshow's merchandise trailer, well worth checking out.
We have the roulettes. They've got the tent just below us. They'll be signing merchandise a little bit later on. And also Matty Hall down here, number 95. We'll be seeing him flying the MXSR later on today. Of course, right down past the Hercules there, you can see Flying Navy. They have a great exhibition down there, just about next to the Defence Force Careers tent.
Yeah, they've got a VR trainer, I believe. Interesting to see Connie on the other side of the Orion, and of course the Orion developed from the Lockheed Electra.